All right. So, update from last time. Basically, what's been going on so far is we got the front end done, and that's all good and whatever. But I was also working a lot on the back end stuff, and I didn't want to stream that part because I didn't want to show you all my API keys on accident because I was working a lot with that. So that's what was going on, and I had been working a lot on the back end since then. Really wrestling with this OAuth, this Twitter OAuth issue. It just is really kind of annoying. So I've been referencing this example for Twitter OAuth recently, and I've been making more progress here. But I was initially using the Passport Twitter OAuth example, and I think that that's just a crappy example because it just doesn't work when you have a single page application and a Node.js API. So I am referencing a single page application example with a Node API. So that has been working out a little bit better. But if you want to see what's going on right now, where are we? Here. I just have this stupid login page right here, nothing really too crazy, but we have failed to find request token in session. So we have that issue. Let me exit that out. Okay. So, let me pause for 1 second. Okay, let's see if that fixed anything. I was just at the Twitter developer portal, so I didn't want you all to see that. But that didn't fix anything, so it doesn't matter. Let's check out our Twitter API configuration. Where is it? So, okay, so this is the example. This is my Airkraken project. So it'd be under boot. Let me just make this all very straightforward right now. So we'll just comment all this out. Okay. Okay. And let me also just comment that out, add the profile. This was the issue, so we want this to just be like that. Okay. So let's give that another shot. Okay, log in. Okay, let's empty cache, hard reload, and let me just remove all these cookies just to make sure we have a fresh session. So we log in, callback URL is not approved. Dang it, I just removed that. Okay, so I think I know. I gotta, 1 second. I will be right back while I go to the developer portal again. I don't know if you all can hear me still. Okay, so just went to the developer portal and updated the URL yet again. So now, ideally this should work, right? Let me just restart the server and refresh it, make sure we don't have any cookies, Okay, and we log in. And yeah, okay, so now it works. And wow, I think I finally got it. Wow. I don't know what I did differently, but I have been wrestling with this for so long. Let's see if I can call this API. I can. Oh my gosh. Man, that is so good to see. I was wrestling with this for the past 2 days, been staying up really late, working on that. So that is really good to see that we're able to do that. I wonder if it had something to do with this. Let me see if it still works after I change the user object to hold these two value variables. I wonder if that had something to do with it. And let me remove some logging while we're here. I was just trying to make sure we grabbed everything. Okay, so we got that, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Okay, so if we try the same thing, and this time let's log in again, remove those, log in, and tweet. It's still working. Okay. I don't know what the issue was, to be honest. Dang, that's rough. I don't know what the issue was. I think it had to do with my cookie implementation, because I was using the Express cookie session initially, but now I'm just using cookie session. And I think that has something to do with it, because I saw the example that I was looking at, and the example, it looked like they were trying to use cookie session, Express session as well, but it looks like they ended up switching to cookie session here. So it looks like that might have been the issue. Because the issue that I was seeing before was basically I was able to authenticate properly, and that was fine and everything. But when it came to actually being able to show that I was authenticated through the API, so like for example, if from my React front end I called my Node backend API and I called the Node backend API, usually what Passport is supposed to do is deserialize your user and then basically add a different parameter to that request, or a different attribute to that request, a user attribute to be specific, and as well as like if they're authenticated or not. And I wasn't able to access that. Like it would just always be undefined every time. But now, after I used cookie session, it looks like that resolved the issue. Maybe that, and I also had a bunch of other configurations here initially that I've since removed, so that could have also played into it as well. But yeah, I'm just really happy to see that that is no longer an issue, so now we can have fun and mess around with the Twitter API. So, now that we got that, I'm gonna borrow this and I'm gonna put this on my APIs. So maybe we make just like, I don't know what we call it, like some sort of configuration or like helper method file. Maybe we just call this one because it's just checking if it's authenticated. Oh wait, I think we actually, now that I look at this again, I'm pretty sure I have something like this, but do I really need that? Usually NPM packages have a lot of bloat with them, so I try to avoid them wherever possible, but for the Node backend it seems like you need a lot of APIs, or a lot of packages, but I don't need it in this case, so let's remove that. Oops. Let's remove that. And we're gonna make a new file for our backend, and we'll just call it something like not auth, but auth check maybe .js. And I've been using Webstorm recently also, and it has pros and cons. I know I talked about that in the last video, but you know, as of right now, it's been growing on me, and I've been using it a lot more. I've also been using DataGrip, which is pretty underrated, I think. I think there's something like SQL Pro or something it just helps you like check out your database and like run queries on it and all that stuff instead of doing it from the command line. So it's just kind of nice to be able to do that. Pretty good interface there. But yeah, so that's what we got right now. But moving on to adding this, maybe we just so we don't need that. Maybe we just call this file auth_check, to be honest. I mean, I don't envision myself putting anything else in here. Oh, I did call it auth_check. Okay, cool. But let's remove these. And I also want to remove some logging that I had before. And that was just when I was going crazy, just trying to figure out anything that was going on with the OAuth because it was just not working for some reason. And then we can uncomment this and then start to do this properly. Let's actually start with this. So we'll add that auth_check to all of our APIs to make sure that users are authenticated before calling it, except for the authentication APIs, of course. But for here, as you see in the Express Passport Twitter example, you don't want to just set this callback for whatever user's coming in, right? You want to be able to query the database and then use that for account linking. But let's read what it says. So in a production quality application, Twitter profile should be associated with the user record, blah, blah, we have that. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to query our database and we're going to call, it's basically the same exact thing that we have here. So we're going to query the database and then we're going to return our callback. With the user information. So I've been using Sequelize. I've set that up already, but I've been using Sequelize and Postgres for my database. And Sequelize is basically a ORM that helps you easily query and insert records into the database. And it's pretty good. I really like it. But let us do this a little bit better. So we need to grab a user record. The only issue is that I store, so the ID that they send us is in a federated credential or whatever. And I've been thinking about this. Do I really need 2 tables for this? They had this in the example. I don't necessarily think I do. I think that I am just, I want to just remove this and make this all just one users table. At the same time, I'm not sure. I mean, I have that relationship between the users table. So each credential has a user, and each user belongs to a credential. So we have that one-to-one relationship. But, oh, thank you. Hey. Well, I don't need to chat that actually. Hey, Bila Lesma. I'm doing well. Hope you are doing well as well. That's 10 minutes ago. Sorry. I don't know how. I think this might even be like another startup idea, just a better streaming experience for streamers. But I don't know how to keep any sort of like static chat box up here. Like in my case for Restream, it just doesn't. I don't know why it just doesn't really work. And I think there's an app called Pennywise that keeps Windows like at the very top of your screen all the time. But as you can see, I kind of miss chats every now and then because I have to like remember to go back to the chat and then check it. So maybe that'll be another idea. A streaming platform, like something that's able to send all your streams to different platforms like YouTube, Twitch, like what I'm doing right now. And it also gives you the ability to have a really nice seamless streaming experience. Because OBS is kind of struggling, to be honest. But anyway, I digress. So we'll just leave this as it is right now. But I might combine those eventually. So let's go back to our configuration here. So what we want to do is, I believe I have something set up where I can just pull a federated credential with the user. So let's do that. So well, actually, I have this whole thing set up in my auth API right here, where I basically get the credential by the ID and remove some of these logs. Get the credential and log the user in if they're not logged in. But the issue here is I don't think this is called super often. I think this is only called when you initially do the redirect, which may not necessarily want to do. But actually, now that I think about it, when this callback occurs, you want that to happen, right? You don't want it to just, you want to only make the record once the callback occurs. So that makes sense. But right now, what we can do is grab the federated credential and then grab the user. So let's do that. Wrong one. So we want to grab the federated credential, and then if the credential exists, I guess we start with the not exist case. Then we just return whatever, just whatever they sent us here, and we can just post that, just put that right there. And else, what we want to do is return the callback, but we want to get the user from our DB, and that would be in federated credential.user, I believe. Let me double check. I did something very similar here. Yeah, so we can just grab the user like that. It's one of the nice things about SQLize. Very nice in grabbing sorry, getting distracted. Profile.id. It's very good, very clean in the way that you're able to query, so it's not super complicated. Like, for example, what I'm doing here is with this get federated credential by ID. I just made this method right here where I have a query where I'm getting one record with ID blah, whatever that is, and then find one here. But then I also have a flag that, okay, so if it's eager loading, basically, if we want to return the object that's related to it, which in this case is the user, that's we have that relationship as I talked about earlier. If we want to return that, then all we need to do is add it to our query with the include attribute. So we just go query.include user. If we wanted to do it by default, we'd do something like include and then user, like that. But as like that's a query just right there. You know how like SQL you have to do all the other crap. Like if you were doing SQL, like it would need to be something like select everything from blah, and then be like where blah join outer whatever, and then it'd be a bunch of different stuff, and it'd be really not intuitive. But this pretty good. I'm liking it so far. Haven't gone too deep into it. As you can see, it's like pretty basic queries right now, but I don't envision the data model for this app being too complex. So, I mean, it seems like it's going pretty well now, and I don't really see a reason why it would really not be going well in the future. But those are always famous last words, right? Okay, so we have that, and we return our user, which is good. But now what we want to do is, this is callback. I think it wants to return, either an error if it has an error. Yeah, so error in user. So if there's that, then if there's any sort of error when we're querying, what we want to do is return our callback. Maybe log that as well, but we'll do that right after. Return our callback with the error and the profile. That's the default profile that they pass in here. And then we also want to console error that, just so, you know, in production, you're able to see that something is not going right, you know, for whatever reason. You don't want to just fail silently or have some sort of issue like that silently. But cool. This looks good. All right. So that looks good to me. I want to make these consts. Okay, so that looks good. Let me just restart the server and make sure everything is going superb. Let's make sure that when we log in, everything goes well and we don't get any errors that like are super crazy. I know about this error. This is like I need to map things properly, which I'm not doing. But that looks good. And if we tweet, then cool, no error, awesome. Okay, everything looks like it's going well, which is so awesome. But, so one thing we need to do here is, now I want to get into scheduling a tweet. So now that we have all the authentication going and working properly, I've been using this Twitter API package. It's basically a Twitter API client to help me be able to more easily schedule these tweets instead of fetching it from my server and all that stuff. So what we want to do here is I was trying to make this kind of a nice modular API where it's just schedule tweet, and when we schedule tweet we can add some parameters like I don't know, for example, I don't know, like if we want to schedule it at a certain date, if we want to schedule it now, all those different parameters we could possibly add, we would want to add here. So, but let's just start with tweeting, just not even scheduling it, just sending out a tweet. So one thing we need to do is, I was thinking about passing the token with the user, but I don't think I want to do that. I want to store it in the database. It's what Twitter recommends. It's what the Passport documentation recommends. So we are going to do just that. But what we need to do now is we need to query our federated credentials to grab our information about the user. So we do that, and we want to go to our request.user and get the ID, and then what we want to do is grab, why is it not importing? Okay. So what we want to do after that, and so we don't want to get our user information here because we don't really need it. So I'm doing lazy loading. So what we want to do is a nice then, and then after that we want to grab the result, or I guess in this case it would be a credential. And we take that credential and we need to, let's also catch the error if there is any. And if there's an error here, what we want to do is let the user know. So we need to send it in our response dot send let's just do s.json. Maybe not. So I think we want to do status, and we'll do like 400, I don't know what. And then we send. I think we can also send. Sorry, going from React to do I need to stringify this? I think so, maybe? I don't know, we'll find out. And then we'll just add a message here saying error getting the user's Twitter information. And so then we can just display that to the user. Okay, so we have that. I kind of also want to make sure that we're logging that as well. So let's just console.error that. And we're going to put the actual error message in there. Okay, so we have that. Now let's deal with the successful case. And we're just going to put all this in there. We'll just cut that, put that there, and we will grab, so let's look at the schema again of our federated credentials. We have token and token secret. So what we want to do is when we have the credential, we want to grab the token and the token secret to initialize our Twitter client. And so once we do that, that should be good. And I don't want to, usually I'd print this out, but this is sensitive information for my account. So I will not be doing that. And I'm just going to log that, like, okay, just tweeting. We can tweet. And then I'm going to actually send out a tweet by uncommenting this. But we'll wait until we just validate that the API is working as we expect. So, okay, so there's an error, bad request. Okay. Wait 1 second. Yeah, okay. I see what's going on here. I think it has to do with this. So we don't want to just pass the user. We want to pass an object that has all of the user attributes with the exception of the ID. So not really using this ID very much. Is there any, I think I need to add a foreign key, potentially. So let's, what app are you currently building? I am building a tweet scheduler, or mainly an engagement builder. It's called AirKraken. And I just find that smaller Twitter accounts, one of the best ways to grow is by engaging with bigger accounts and people who, you know, who have more of a presence on social media. So I want to make that super easy by automatically putting all those users or all those tweets in one place so you can just quickly engage with them, because it can take a lot of time, like seriously, to engage with people on Twitter. You have to search for the right tweets to engage with and all that. But I am working on fixing that. So right here, we don't want to pass in our user. We want to pass, we do want to pass in our user, but we don't want to pass in strictly our user. We want the federated credential ID with that user. But then we need to query it here. So maybe I just add an attribute here. So what if we like let user with federated ID equals our user right here. We set it equal to our user. I think that's like our model though. That should be fine. And then we just set user with federated ID dot federated ID to be our federated credential ID. And that user with federated ID should be good. So now we can just explicitly call the federated ID, and we will do that in our API right here, where instead of doing that, we're going to get the federated ID. Okay. So we have that. Let's restart our server. And call that. We have another another bad request. What went wrong? Okay, so maybe we need to refresh. Might need to re-authenticate. So it's still undefined. And that's our federated credential ID. Okay. When we deserialize, we want to have that federated ID still. So this is making me think that maybe instead of just doing it like that, we want to have a foreign key of our federated credentials. So we have like a tight relationship between the federated credential and this. And we'll just name it federated ID. And I think that should work. Hopefully it's not like some sort of circular dependency, but we'll see. Oh, I need to add a comma. And I'm pretty sure that needs to be a string. Let's make this, I think this is just a string. But let me double check in the credential to see. I made that text. Don't know why. Let's make it a string. Or let's make it a text just to avoid any issues here. Okay. So we have that. Looks good. And I don't like that actually though, because what if in the future you want to be making, what if you want to integrate with LinkedIn? What if you want to LinkedIn, or what if you want to integrate with Facebook? All those different things. So if I'm making this tight relationship between one federated credential and a user, that's not ideal because we want multiple providers for each credential. I mean, we want multiple providers for each user, so each credential will have a different provider. So a user can technically have multiple credentials. So let's remove that. And so we can actually solve this by grabbing, let's go back to our auth. So right now, this is fine, this looks good. But then this, when we get a user and then we're just not using that ID, oh, okay, so this would actually grab our user, but we should actually grab our credential here. And then we can just load in no. Okay, so we're just going to need to do another query. Because that's the best way I can see us tackling this. So we want to just keep that user like that. We're going to keep just a strict user there because, you know, a user can have multiple IDs, right? So blah, blah, blah. Just looking at this, I think I just want to make this the default as well. Okay, so we're just going to keep this user ID stuff, but we're going to change the API. Make sure we don't have any messages. Good. Okay, so I think I might need to change up this schema a little bit. Maybe we want this to have many here, so then we can just call get credentials when we pull the user. I think, oh yeah, this. So if foo belongs to bar, we can call, this is a SQLized documentation, by the way. Then we can call that blah, blah, blah. What can we call on bar, though? Okay, so let's do a has many instead of belongs to. Has many credentials. So that way we can call our get bars, right? Where is that? Yeah, get bars. In this case, it would be get credentials, federated credentials. Okay, so we have a one-to-many, and maybe it would be better if we said that this just belongs to what am I doing? Yeah. So that belongs to a user. Okay. Cool. So after we do that, I think we need to sync our DB because DB sync, right? Because we updated that. But what can we call when it belongs to? So foo belongs to that. So we can just go, okay. We can just call has one. We can just call get user still. So we're good there. Like we don't need to worry about that. So we don't need to change any of our code in the API because yeah, we don't need to change any of our code in the API. But now, what we want to do is, instead of querying our federated credential, we want to get our user. So let's get that. So get by ID. Yeah, let's do that. And let's add something similar. One of these eager kind of queries. I should probably put that in a try catch. Okay, and include federated credential. Why are we adding the controllers? Okay, whatever. Okay, so we're getting it by the ID and then including our credentials. So where's eager loading? Yeah, okay, so we have lazy loading and then there's eager loading. So that looks fine. But what if we have multiple credentials? How does that return? Okay. I guess we'll just find out. So we get the user by the ID, we have our federated credentials, and we want to make sure that the provider is equal to Twitter, because that's the provider. So go back to our API. We're going to get user by ID, and we're going to do that same thing, and we're going to do eager loading to true. And we want to get, I'm assuming that it's going to return some sort of array. So I'm assuming that this user, there'll be like user dot federated credential, or more like that, and that'll be an array, and so we can filter on that. And I forget the syntax for filter. JavaScript syntax filter. Don't use filters super often, but we want to just grab it where Yeah, okay, so I just totally missed it. So you just want to grab it where the credential.id is equal to, or sorry, credential.provider is equal to Twitter. And, okay. And we're going to have credential here. Maybe we should call it fedcred. And we're going to check to see fedcred.provider is equal to Twitter. Probably should make that a constant in a second. So we got that. And now we're going to filter on those. And that should be only one credential. And so then we go credential.token and then token secret. And that should be better. I think I need to re-authenticate with the Twitter API because I just sunk all my data. So I think that just deleted all my data. It says the user has not been authenticated. Crap. Crap. Man. So it's no longer authenticated. And I wonder why. This is a really fragile package that we're working with. Did I change anything here? I don't believe so. I believe I kept all this the same. Okay. That looks fine. The only thing I changed was my auth initialization. Maybe there's an issue with deserializing the user because I didn't catch any errors. And let's console.log the error, console.error the error. And let's see where that goes. Okay. All right. No, still unauthenticated. Dang. That's rough. Okay, so it's selecting our user at ID and it also gets, so I guess this is getting the federated credential and then this is getting the user. And let's re-add these logs here. Okay, let's see if we're deserializing the user. I think we're supposed to. Deserializing. Okay, good. That looks fine. I want to check my database, but let me just double check to make sure that my schema doesn't have any sensitive information. Hash password, so this doesn't have anything. There's nothing there. I think that only happens if you just authenticate normally, but I just kept it there just in case. So let's check then. Let's check our DB. Air Kraken. And usually use data grip, but I haven't set that up for local yet. I've only done it for my remote DBs. Okay, so let's go to our users. Let's see. Yeah, we don't have any users, so okay, that makes sense. Okay, so that's good news actually, because now, like, the whole reason that was happening, yeah, okay, so the whole reason that's happening is because we sunk our DB, which destroyed all of our records. So what we want to do is re-add those records. So I need to look at this a little bit more. So this configures the strategy. And then user's Twitter profile. And then I believe if they're not already authenticated with Twitter, they will need to then it will go to our auth API, which will then authenticate them and save the user data. Okay, makes sense. And I don't think there would ever be a scenario where we would delete the user record. I mean, it just happened because I'm developing right now. And yeah. So maybe instead of this db sync script that we have, maybe instead of that, we need to maybe figure out a way to preserve our data, right? So let's look into Sequelize and see what they have. Equalize, sync. Ooh, maybe, is there a migration one that I didn't know about? Yeah, okay. So there a way to migrate? Okay. And modify the scripts like that. That is useful, okay. What is grunt though? I'm not sure what grunt is. Maybe there's a better answer here. I mean, that's okay. Let's look how to do a migration. So, yeah, they're just saying to do that. Documentation never has the right answer. This is always Stack Overflow. Okay, so this is interesting. I don't want to delete the user though. I don't want to delete that table for sure. So so it looks like people wrote a script for that. A lot of people are writing scripts for it. This is kind of boring. I don't really want to be doing this while I stream though, so I might just hack it for now. And I might just throw that code in there just for one time. So then it's able to save the user information. But I'm also thinking that this is something that really important to do. Might want to check out that tutorial on migrations. But this doesn't work. So let's check out this. Yeah, that's a lot to go through, which I will likely probably have to do. So let's just not do that right now. Let's just add this into Yeah, let's just add this. So we're just going to throw this into our auth initialization, just initially. Really hacky, but this is so we can keep moving in the stream. Because there's a lot of stuff I need to learn on the migration front, looks like. Okay, so we have our profile. So we can just replace all of these with just profile. So let's do that. Profile, and no, that's not what I wanted to do at all. I wanted to grab this and replace this with profile. Make sure all of them look good. Okay. Replace all. That looks good. So we have our token secret, which is just itself. All right. And we aren't going to log in because we don't have that ability quite yet. But we are going to pass in our user. And we don't want this to be that. We want it to just be our user ID. Result.id. And we're just going to stringify that. Okay, so that looks good. And we will just do this just one time just to make our record. Feels super gross. But you gotta do what you gotta do to keep moving. And it's just in development, so it's like whatever. Yeah, so we got all of our information in the database now. And now we can remove this because we are good with authentication. And we can just do that. And so now we can tweet. And that should, okay, so it looks like we're not getting anything on our, where is it? Our credential. So our credential, this user.federated credential has nothing. So let's log our user to see what it actually is. Maybe give us some more insight into bad request. What's wrong with the request? Oh, that, yeah, of course. Right. Okay, so it's federated underscore credentials. That will do it right there. And let's see if that works. And one other thing, I don't want to be logging my request anymore. So let's just remove that. And we'll handle that. And I have an auth hook that I use, so I'll handle that in the auth hook instead of doing it right here in the post queue section. So if we go back here, and what we want to do is check this. I can't read property filter. Yeah, so we have federated credentials. Something's not right with it. Okay, cannot read property filter of undefined. Let's log our credentials, because it looks like it's an array right here, as it shows. So someone's not telling the truth. Okay, so it's not. It's undefined. But why? I thought I just saw it there. Maybe I mistyped the name. Oh, it's plural. Okay. So now if we try that. Okay, cool, now it works. So we have that. Okay, and so now we can just try to send this guy to Twitter. Let's see if it works. I'm doing an iconic tweet, just setting up my Twitter from Jack Dorsey, but with air cracking. So let's see how that goes. Okay, so let's log on to Twitter also. Okay, let's go to my profile. And let's tweet it. Hopefully nothing breaks. Okay, so something broke. Credentials that do not allow access to this resource. So I don't know why it's not handled with my catch though. It should be handled. Oh, this is async, I believe. So I need to mark it as such. And then we await. Okay, now that should work like we want it to. And now, okay, so yeah, now we have the bad request. So it's forbidden. So something obviously is not working properly there, because and you'll see we didn't tweet it, most likely. So let's try to figure out what's going on through good old Google. Credentials do not allow. Okay, so yeah, I think I need to update this. So 1 second while I go to the Twitter portal think you all can still hear me, but I don't want to accidentally expose some of my keys for whatever reason. Okay. Okay, so it looks like I do have read-write access right now. So I don't know why it didn't work. Let me check this out. It should be. Make sure that we're specifying it's Twitter. So I'm not sure why that's happening. So let's make sure we have the right credentials. Oh, I think this is actually, I think that's why. Let me check. Federated credentials. It is. Okay, so that's probably why. This was probably undefined, and that's why. So let's try it again. Another bad request. I usually right now I would log out or like check on these credentials, but not with you all watching. Okay, how about this? If credential dot token then let's log it to be good token. And then we're going to do the same thing for secret. Good token secret. Okay, so let's try that. Maybe give us some insight as to making sure that these are not null. Do we have any good token, good token, good token, good token? sorted properly, because they look to both be undefined. So they're both undefined, which is good that we know that. So it's something that's pretty easily fixable, right? We just need to figure out why that is. And I want to check on the database again, but this time I need to not share my screen because it has credentials in it. Okay, so it has my credentials there, and I'm just gonna quickly log out this credential, and just to see what is going on, just to make sure that we have the right provider here, or the right credential rather. 1 second, let me just make sure that we have model provider at credential. We do not, oh wait, we do, yeah, right here. Maybe I need to make these string. We'll first check this credential. And I can't share my screen for that, so 1 second. Okay. Okay. I got it. So, what we need to do is update this to be data values, because I didn't know that, but I guess they store it as data value first. So we save this, do that, and this should be good. Maybe I don't remove this log, just remove the credential log. And we add data values to that. Okay. So we need to go here. We have that. So there's an error. What is our error? Cannot read token of undefined. That's interesting. Okay. So let me make sure that I was looking at the right thing as I log out credential again. But I was under the assumption that okay, so let's see if I can just call get this. Get federated credentials. Let's do that before I log out that. Let's see how that goes. Does that break everything? Yeah, okay, so that doesn't work. So we're on the right track with federated credential. And we need to log this out, but I need to block my screen for a second. Okay, so this should be right, but it's not. So let me check out the Sequelize documentation. We'll go Sequelize. We want the data values is null. Data values undefined. That's not it. I'm not using TypeScript. Do I need to parse it? Interesting. I don't know why they just stringify it and then parse it. That's probably not right. Get the data values. Let's check out the eager loading, make sure I'm doing that properly. Okay, so we have eager loading, and as many belongs to blah, blah, blah. Okay. Don't know about that. Was I just searching for data values, right? Yeah, might have to check out the documentation on what they say about data values. Oh, okay, it looks like I can filter as well when I'm doing my data model. That'd be useful. But for right now, just trying to access we're just trying to access the model that we load in. Okay, so why not include bar? Yeah, and then it says bars. See, mine looks kind of like this, but then I get individual bar. In my case, this would be credential. But, yeah, so mine is like credential, and then I grab it, but it's not. What? Okay, I'm not sure why they're doing it like that. Maybe I'll just search for data values to see what they say about that. Come on, man. What is up with this website? Let me just reload that. Not working. Okay. Let's look it up separately then. Data values. Okay, here we go. Oh, do I have to call get? Okay, I have to call get. Wait, but then it's saying I can just do that. And I was just doing that with no luck. Let me try it again. Yeah, that's weird. Yeah, I don't know why. But this should be good. Like, just that should work. Don't know why it's not. Weird, so we're not logging out any credentials. Let me just make sure I'm not going crazy here. I mean, that works, but we're not logging good token or good token secret, which means that they're null. So, I mean, I guess we can try get like that. Don't love that. I mean, because it should just work like that. That's what you say in your documentation. It should just work. Okay, credential.get is not a function. Let me double check this credential again and make sure it is what I thought it was. And let me hide my screen for a second. Okay. I think I got it. So filter was returning an array, and I think that's the issue, because I was trying to call token on, or yeah, credential.token on an array, which wouldn't work. So that's why I'm going to set the index to 0 right off the bat. And then if there's any sort of error, then it'll obviously catch it. If for some reason we can't get any credential that has that. So now credential should work properly. So let's run our server and call this good token, good secret. Perfect. Okay, and then now, at the moment of truth, if we uncomment that, I think this will be a good stopping point too. If we can just get this tweet rolling so we don't have anything tweeted lately. 37 minutes ago, scheduled tweet. So now, if we call tweet here, it should work. I think it worked. Perfect. Worked. All right. Let's like it. Okay, cool. And for those of you watching, the 2 people that are watching, send me a like on that tweet. I would appreciate it. Maybe retweet it. But yeah, I think that's a good stopping point. And I thank you guys or gals for tuning in. But that's it for today. Oh, you don't got Twitter? Come on. That's fine. Whatever. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, and I will see you all next week. I'm starting to do this just once a week just because it was taking a little bit too much time when I really needed to focus on some of this stuff. So yeah, I'm doing it once a week now. Cool. Thanks, King Babo XIII. I think that's 8 or that's 13, right? I think so. But yeah, so yeah, it was just taking a little bit too much time. So maybe I'll do it once a week, every Wednesday like this, maybe twice a week. Excuse me. We'll see how it goes, depending on how well I am progressing on this project. But yeah, in the meantime, thanks everyone, and I will see you all in the next one. See ya.